So it's pretty common to ask what is the best training split to build muscle or get stronger. And as more people get involved in the hobby, more and more people are going to ask that question many times over. But I think it's important to recognize that training splits is actually one of the least interesting aspects of how to train properly. When it comes to training properly, there's a lot more things that you can worry about, a lot more things that you should focus on, and a lot more things that are actually going to determine whether or not you're genuinely making progress. When it comes to discussing training splits, it really is the lowest hanging fruit. I think the mindset of asking what is the best training split is one that is incredibly, I guess, misguided or immature in a sense, where you're trying to get a more advantageous starting point. And the reason why the message of my channel is start where you stand is because that is your starting point. Many people want to go from A to B, but they don't even know where A is. And A is where you are and not where you want it to be. So don't start losing weight when you already lost 10. Like, go on the scale right now. That's where you need to start. And when it comes to the idea of trying to have a better starting point, a better starting line, to thinking that is going to help you reach your end goal faster, I think an analogy that's really appropriate is to think of running a mile or a marathon on a track. It doesn't really matter where on the track you start, because in order for it to count as one full lap, you have to go back to that original point. And the idea that you can improve your starting position by starting on different points of the track is incredibly misguided, and it just misses the whole point of why you're running on the track anyway. Now, a way to kind of think about this even further is, well, are you trying to say that any training program you do, any training split that you do is equally effective? Of course not. The reason why I said on a track is because you have to make sure you're on the damn track. You can start running anywhere, and if you are trying to really be as exact as you possibly can be, it would just benefit you to go to something that's more standardized. As a result, if you really want to make the most amount of progress, choosing a sensible program is going to allow you to have this repeatable system that you can just modify and tweak as you keep training. Whereas if you just kind of go willy-nilly, go off into the world and not really know what you're doing or why you're doing it, then obviously you're putting all these effort in, but you actually don't know what mile you're on. You don't know how far you've gotten. You don't know how much effort you've put into, and you're just kind of in a place that you have no idea what's around you. So that's why I said, or I like the analogy of running on a track. So when it comes to picking a training split, what are the more, I guess, canonical splits that are most often seen in a gym setting? Well, that's quite simple. The full body split. Most people will provide this to beginners, but I find that it's actually incredibly useful for the intermediate and advanced stage as well. I just find that given your ability to work hard and also your recovery and whatnot, I think full body is incredibly viable, especially if you manage the certain exercises that you perform, and it exceeds even the applications for beginners. Part of the reason why beginners benefit from full body is because they're learning how to lift. And typically that involves learning how to do big basic compound movements, and this having more frequent touches, more frequent practice is going to be of a benefit to them. However, when it comes to building muscle, obviously things can slightly change. The other training split that is most commonly prescribed is going to be something like an upper-lower, where you divide the body into two different parts, and then you have an upper day and a lower day. And yes, when you are, like, I guess, longer or further along in your training career, you know, have put more miles into running on this track we call lifting, the upper days and lower days can start to be incredibly, I guess, the amount of work you do on the upper days tend to be a lot more. But I don't think that's the biggest concern for novices, quite simply because you get so much of the benefit of training certain muscles just by doing some bigger compounds. So your rows, your vertical pulls, whether that be on a lat pull down, assisted pull-up machine, or being able to do pull-ups. There is a lot less of a need to isolate. You still should do isolation exercises like your tricep extensions and whatnot, don't get me wrong, and don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that you don't need to be as specific. You don't need to be as targeted. You can take a little bit more of a shotgun approach, and just by virtue of how much you're lifting, you won't be generating as much fatigue that would necessitate you to have a smaller exercise selection, and it kind of justifies having a bit more in there. When I was first starting training out when I first started training and I used an upper lower split, even though my upper days were significantly longer, I actually got through them at around the same amount of time, just because when it came to the time to do my curls, the time to do my lateral raises, the time to do my extensions, the amount of rest I needed to take was severely lower. And as a result, I was able to cram in a lot more work and still benefit from the split. But as I got more advanced, I guess you could say, I still consider myself a late stage intermediate, I guess you could say. As I got more advanced, I was able to accumulate a lot more fatigue with a lot less exercises. And as a result, I would have to spread my work more throughout the week. And an easy modification that you can make to an upper lower is, quite honestly, putting back training, ab training, and forearm training on all 4 days. Typical on an upper lower, it's a 4-day split, 2 upper days, 2 lower days. Put the back training on, spread it out through all 4, and change which arms or which bicep or non-tricep arm work you're doing on that day. So maybe on your upper days, it's focused on your shoulders and triceps. And then on your lower body days, it's more focused on your biceps and forearms. That's a really easy modification that you can make to an upper lower split. And you can say, oh, it's not an upper lower anymore. To which I'll say, it's like, well, I'm not going to say it because it's incredibly rude, and my mother told me if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But anyway, an upper lower is one of those other choices that you can make. And honestly, choosing between a full body and upper lower really comes down to personal preference. I think the most important thing that a novice can do is just get comfortable with telling yourself it's okay to choose something for the simple reason that I prefer it. So those two are really common ones, full body, upper lower. But what about push-pull legs? Push-pull legs is incredibly popular, and it's one that I have criticized on this channel. However, I have came around to it, and I have decided to include it in the canon. So of the acceptable lifting protocols or splits that are out there, I think push-pull legs is incredibly valid because it is somewhat like a body part split. Obviously, now it's more so about movements, and you can group movements in a specific way, and then those movements obviously tend to have a wide variety of muscles that are shared between them. So a push day, bench, overhead press, dips, tricep extensions. Lateral raises can be thrown in there and whatnot. And on a pull day, you know, there's some debate whether you put a deadlift on a leg day or a pull day. There are other videos that you can refer to by either myself or other creators that kind of go more in depth into the push-pull legs, because I only ran it for a couple months when I was first starting lifting. But the reason why I think it is one of those more successful, and honestly one of the most successful splits out there, a lot of the people who I've talked to who have achieved a good amount of strength, not necessarily like, you know, world class or anything of that nature, but definitely like, you know, they are the fittest person in most of the rooms they walk into, or even the biggest or the buffest or the strongest or whatever. Most of them use push-pull legs for the simple reason that they love the gym. They love training, and it's a training split that allows them to go into the gym 6 days a week while still managing fatigue in a sense. So that is one of the most successful splits that I've seen out there, so you can't go wrong with the push-pull legs either. What are some other splits that I think are really useful? Another one is actually a body part split. So I just mentioned how the success of push-pull legs hinges on the fact that you just go into the gym. You're going to the gym usually 6 days a week, and you just love training, and you love training hard. The way you manage fatigue is purely by your split. And as a result, you can do the same thing with the body part split. Chest day, back day, arm day. Now, I think when it comes to body part splits, there are better and worse ways to go about them. So even a chest day, in my opinion, should involve some direct tricep work and direct shoulder work. Maybe it just would be more isolation based and not so much compound based. But, you know, This is primarily a strength channel. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. However, hypertrophy is incredibly important for strength, and you know, spending some phases just basically going in and being a bodybuilder for a while is going to be incredibly useful to you, so long as you don't get too removed from what your final goal is, whether that be a stronger bench, a bigger total, things of that nature, right? But anyway, when it comes to the body part split, I do think there are better and worse ways to go about them. However, even if you decide to go with a true body part split, many people have gotten very big off of that. And for a long time, when I was just a new personal trainer, I just thought to myself, like, damn, like, just imagine how big this person would be if they did an upper lower or a full body. It's like, no, what they're doing is working. So the key thing here, right? The key takeaway of this video is really simple. Make sure you're on the damn track, right? So choose one of these splits and commit to it. Work really hard with that split, and from there, as long as it's working, it's right. I will make that point until the day that I die, because too many people are trying to change something when it's working out for you, right? So if something is going incredibly well in your marriage, you don't get a new wife. You know what I'm saying? So if it's working, stick to it. And when it stops working, you usually just need to work things out, and you need to make some adjustments rather than just throw the whole thing away. Now, doesn't work always in the same, it's not a perfect analogy, but you know, generally speaking, I think it's an appropriate one to make. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope that you eat your meals appropriately. I hope you have trained hard. I hope you hit new PRs in the future. So keep training hard, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Wait. Curl from the future here. Decided to add on something to this video because it's going to be asked. What about the splits that are less common? The Arnold split, the torso limb split. Honestly, there are other ones that like are a hybrid split, like upper lower push pull leg. The reason why I didn't necessarily say that they are the canonical ones is just because usually, not saying that these are bad places to start, but in my opinion, there is just a lot more room for error, because these splits that are basically offshoots of many of the more canonical training splits are meant to address a specific issue, and many of those issues don't necessarily what kind of word was that? They don't necessarily apply to you, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't benefit from choosing them. The reason why I would recommend away from them is not for any good reason, honestly. If you are getting good results with them, it matches your personal preference and it's reaching your goals, then who am I to say that it's not the right one for you? However, I just think that as a safer starting point and something that I'm more comfortable with recommending, I would go with either a full body, upper lower, push pull leg, or a body part split. So let me know what you think in the comment section below, and always remember, do your best, or at least do what you can, keep trying hard, and start where you stand.